Welcome to Young Asia Television.
Hello and welcome to the interview. I'm speaking with Frederica Jansz, the editor of The Sunday Leader. Frederica, warm welcome to the program. Don't need to introduce you really, because I'm sure many in the audience would know who you are and what The Sunday Leader as a newspaper is. But to begin with, Frederica, how did you enter journalism? I think you've been in this field for now over 20 years.
Yes.
Where and when did you start?
22 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say when, because then you will know my age. However, I started with Reuters Television, with Varuna Karunatilaka as his recordist. So immediately I was thrown into the battlefield because the war was raging at the time. And yes, that is how I really got a grounding. Subsequently, of course, I went on to get a diploma and study, and then I began writing, freelancing for the print media. And there I found my niche.
And you never saw your future in broadcast journalism? You switched to print?
I switched to print, yes.
Was there any reason behind that? Did you think that print was your calling over television?
Yes. I think I found my, as I said, my niche, my passion was for writing. And yes, that was my strength.
Has training changed, Frederica, since 20 years ago? Are journalists today able to kind of avail themselves of better training, better equipment, better methodologies, as opposed to what you might have had to choose from 20 years ago?
Yes, definitely. There is the Sri Lanka Press Institute, or rather the College of Journalism, that is doing a lot of very good work, excellent training programs. Unfortunately, what I find now is that a lot of journalists or a lot of young people who come to the newspaper, who come to the Sunday Leader to join the paper, don't consider going there first and getting that training. And we as editors are also not insisting that those we hire should be those that come after they are
So
trained.
where do they come from? Fresh after school or grads?
A lot of them are fresh after school, some of them are graduates, yes. And they are just keen. And you know, on our part, it's so hard to find English-speaking people, not journalists. I mean, they're certainly not journalists at that stage, but people who are pretty good in their grammar, that we continue to hire them. But it's not always a success. It's difficult.
Yeah. You stepped into big shoes. Big shoes. How was it like taking up the reins of the paper after Lasantha's murder?
Awful.
Yeah.
It was really horrible. A horrible period, a very trying time. And yes, last year, in fact this last 1 year since I took over, has been extremely difficult.
For you personally, or for the paper, or both?
In some ways for the paper. For the first 2 months or 3 months, I would say, after I took over, it was difficult even for the paper, because when I stepped in, the paper, the sales had dropped considerably, which was understandably so after Lasantha's killing. Again, I think most people felt that, you know, without Lasantha there was no Sunday Leader. So that by itself was a huge challenge to resurrect the image of the Sunday Leader again, put it back on the road, get it more onto a middle path, and continue. And despite us trying from the very big inception to do that, you know, we continue to come under threat. We continue to get the death threats, the cases, etc., etc., which continued up to December or January this year, until the presidential election.
Oh, sorry, January.
Until the presidential election. It only eased or stopped after that. Certainly not the cases. Of course, the cases continue. But all the other forms of threat and intimidation stopped. So it was a very trying year.
You said that you said you were trying to resurrect the Sunday Leader into a middle path. I wanted to link that up with a question I wanted to ask you, which is that the Sunday Leader, in the perception of some, is not a paper that can be taken seriously for the timber of journalism that Lasantha practiced. Of course, it was bought for that, but it was never really quite taken seriously as an investigative outlet or whatever. Do you agree with that? And under your tenure, what exactly is the middle path that you would like to see the paper go towards or become?
Yes, well, practicing professional journalism. I totally agree with what you just said. While Lasantha made a name for the newspaper and himself, in practicing the kind of journalism that he did, it was certainly not on that middle road.
Yeah.
It was very partial, and obviously he very openly backed the opposition party at all times, or the United National Party at all times. He never tried to hide that fact. Lasantha, of course, I believe steered a course as far as investigative journalism is concerned in this country. I do believe that he made or made a huge breakthrough in that concept, or in sensationalizing stories, in how investigations were done. I learned a lot under Lasantha. But having said that, while the paper did in that respect cater to a certain market, a niche market, I mean, after his death, we couldn't continue in that style. So we had to get middle of the road. We had to become more professional and completely unbiased. And that's where I would like to see the paper going, and that's where I'm trying to take it.